So let's discuss internal networking and your peers. This requires your attention. It requires effort. Now, when we say peers, we mean, first of all, anyone doing DA. We mean anyone doing DA ahead of you, and ahead of you, and ahead of you. So if you're in year one, there are, for example, there may be 4 or 3 more years of DAs at different stages, right, in the development in their career. There may even be a 5th year or a 6th, depending on how long they've been doing this. There may be some graduates, okay? These are your peers. You should be connected to them somehow and regularly. Other peers are those in your team. They may be senior to you, but they may still be described as peers. I'm focusing on peers, colleagues, because interacting with them in your department, but then outside of your department is, again, something of importance. The more you can be developing connections all over the place, the better. Why? Because you can discover new initiatives, new ideas, things that are going on that you weren't aware of, that you wouldn't otherwise have known about. It's just very, very helpful. Those same individuals are constantly hearing about new jobs, new opportunities, okay? Or maybe not constantly, but are regularly hearing, okay? If you don't know them, if you're not connected to them, you will not know that, right? You'll have to wait for formal news, all right? You'll have to wait for the email. Sometimes by the time the email arrives, it's too late. Sometimes the email never arrives. It just happens. So the power of serendipity is something to consider. This is why you would have all of those individuals connected on LinkedIn, for example. I'm not suggesting it has to be every single peer, but a few of them, right? Okay. When I'm working one-to-one with DAs and some in TikTok Live, when I'm asking, who else do you know? What about your peers? They look at me as though I'm speaking Greek. What? I said, well, the other people you work with, right? The other DAs, I don't really. Oh, I know them a little bit, but we don't speak much. Okay. What about the DAs ahead of the year above? No. And they're looking at me. Why do I care about that? Right. Okay. And then what about those peers? They're not DAs, but they might be graduates. They might be other employees in your team. How are your relationships? And again, often you say, I don't really. So in this particular one, I want to make sure you're focused on peers, especially DAs. DAs and graduates as well. DAs, because we want to know what's happening to the year above. What's the year above doing? What's the year above them doing? So what exists in your company? Maybe you're the first cohort. Okay. If you're not the first cohort, then fantastic, because you can see what's happening and how the other cohorts are developing. You can see what's being said publicly on LinkedIn. You can see what's being said internally on the social network. We'll come to that. You can see and go and speak to these individuals and see how they're getting on. And what's really critical is then being able to see how their careers are developing, and you get advanced notice of this. The brilliance of this 4-year, 3 or 4, something like that program is that it is standardized, okay? You're going through the motions, so you can get advanced knowledge. You can learn from how things are going for them, and you can take corrective action now. So if things aren't going that well for some of them over there, that's unfortunate, but you can prepare. You can see it happening. You can see where they're getting jobs. You can see where they're staying, leaving, what departments are important to them, which departments are influential, which ones are hiring, which ones are not. You can see how they're getting on in terms of career development. Are they being promoted? Does every 5th year, assuming you finish in year 4, does every 5th year then become a line manager automatically? Do 20% of them leave immediately? Do 80% of them leave immediately? So this is why I wanted to focus on peers. Now, graduates. let's look at graduates, because they're 3 or 4 years ahead of you in age, but they are essentially kind of the same status. It varies per organization, right? But they are also new. They might be, do we call them the officer class? I've heard that described. I don't think that's accurate, because I think you in there with 2 years experience are probably way more experienced than these graduates are. Yes, they've done a degree, doesn't really necessarily help them, as you will very quickly see, right? One of the reasons, by the way, that you're doing, for example, 1 day a week is because this stuff doesn't necessarily matter, right? How, just quick aside, how can you do 4 days a week, for example, 4 days a week of actual work, adding value, and then 1 day of a degree? Okay, how is that possible? Surely you have to have your degree first. No. It's useful, you learn some theory and so on, that's very good, it's good to have, right? But this is why often graduates will parachute in thinking they know everything. I've got my degree, great. It is useful being connected to them. Follow their careers as well. Follow what's happening to them. Be connected with them. Look for opportunities to connect with all of your peers, DAs, graduates, other peers on the same level. So we'll come to everybody else in a minute. Make sure you're connecting with them. Find opportunities. If there are no opportunities, make them. Now, I've said this to a few individuals, they thought I was nuts. So, for example, if your DAs are not meeting, okay? If your DAs, the ones above you and you're right, if you're and ones below you when that happens, right? Okay. If you're not meeting on a regular basis, why not create a pub night, create a coffee thing. After work is usually good, right? So everyone can relax, and no one's pressured on time. But make these informal networks. If they don't already exist, they should already exist ideally. Okay, but you can help run them. That's great. It's a great way of being connected. Okay, so you take it on yourself. Make sure you are connected to all of your peers. Why? Well, same reason as HR, same reason as senior exec. It's just making sure you understand what's moving and you use the power of network. Okay, so the more people you know, the more opportunities you get to understand what's moving, the more serendipitous things can happen. The more of a network and a community you've got for life, essentially, especially with LinkedIn, right? With LinkedIn, the more connections you've got here, the more people you generally know, that travels with you. Okay, if you leave the company or they leave the company, they're still around, right? And what you'll often see is diaspora everywhere, right? You start at IBM or some bank or whatever, right? Some tech company, but then after a few years, everybody's moved around. That can be tremendously valuable for you if you've got that rough connectivity going. Okay, so peers. How you do this? Clubs, coffees, after work drinks, after work dinners, sports, five-a-side, any of these kind of things, right? For peers in particular, really valuable. Do get involved. Put some effort in. Okay.